Welcome to Progressive Mindset Podcast. My name is Natalie Potts, business development coach and mentor. And each week I'll be bringing you an inspiring personal message to help you unlock creating and living a life full of energy, action, impact, and happiness. And today I'm going to focus on a book that I've recently been reading called Embrace the Suck. So you really know your friends when they buy you books that are named slightly weird names like this, Embrace the Suck, and you think, wow, what is this? But I know I've got an amazing group of friends when they buy me gifts like this, because I was not able to put this book down in January. It was phenomenal, and I raced through it, and I highlighted lots and circled lots on the pages, etc., like I usually do. But this is all a kind of, you could say, memoir, share, experience, journal, however you want to take it. It's very kind of to the point, which I like in the books. Each chapter is quite short and punchy. And it's by a Navy SEAL or ex-Navy SEAL called Brett Gleason. And it's about Navy SEALs and their way of life and living an extraordinary life. And Brett kind of goes through exactly what SEAL training is. And that one of the things that they'll tell their students as instructors is to embrace the suck. And this conveys the one lesson that is vital for any SEAL hoping to learn. And that is about learning to lean into suffering and get comfortable being uncomfortable. And this kind of offers, as his word said, like a non-nonsense guide. So as a Navy SEAL combat veteran, he says, he's turned leadership into being an expert and teaching this now and sharing his experience with others to help them improve in their development. He's an amazing guy. I actually reached out to him through Instagram and just got a bit, you can always tell when it's not them talking to you as well, through Instagram, trust me. Just did a bit of dialogue and just said how amazing I found this book and how useful it's been. And he kind of wants to talk through, or he talks through, developing a mental fortitude. So what is needed in being a leader? And he talks about obviously dominating the battlefield, but this is about adapting. This is about taking a mindset and being a leader, essentially. And this is exactly the same as when you're essentially building your own business. So I was coaching with a group of coaches the other week, and we weren't coaching, I want to call it wrong to say that. We were sharing ideas. We're kind of all building our own businesses and just sharing about what's working, what's not, and different things. It's so useful because you'll hear little nuggets. And you think, okay, I haven't looked at that. And then you'll take that away in the week, or it'll resonate somewhere, kind of show up somewhere differently for you. So being around those, again, and networking the right people is absolutely key when you're building something, or just generally, to be honest, in terms of keeping you driven, focused, on point, challenged as well. Absolutely. So we were sharing that you have to be a leader. So I think people underestimate this, that if you're a CEO, if you're, a founder, you're owning your own business, you're building it as a coach, whatever, you are a leader. Okay. You lead people, or you will definitely have to have the right and same skill set that a leader would need. So this is going to be a reflection of kind of 7 self-improvement actions that leaders can take. And this is from my own experience in leading teams. This is from the books I've read. It's like anything that we do. It is a kind of a share of how I see things and what's worked for me, what hasn't worked for me. And this is like anything, isn't it? When people share all their messages and ideas and podcasts, it is just an amalgamation of all of this content and all of this stuff that they have taken in. And then they choose to share it with the world. And this is where you look at this actually, again, like a leader would, the skills that are involved with that. So you might not know anything different from me. I just have the confidence to get out there and do it. I don't procrastinate maybe the same way as you are procrastinating about doing the things you want to do and achieving your goals. I'll just go out there and give it a go. I don't fear failure. I don't procrastinate in a way that I used to, because I really worked on that. I'm not as caught up in perfectionism. And you could see this and think, well, wowee, look at her type thing. But this again has been linking with something I've been working on recently with my own development, is you have to start selling yourself and you have to start singing your praises. And this really resonated with me this week, because I've been working with high performers and looking at where their performance is at the moment, like where's the reality and where do they want to be. So really talking to them about, the first thing I ask them is, tell me your strengths. And we kind of sit there and have a little bit of a laugh, smile, like, oh, it's really difficult, isn't it? And I was like, yeah, it is. It's really hard to ask someone what their strengths are. If I was to sit there and say to them, tell me your opportunities, your weaknesses, they'd reel it off straight away, because we naturally think of a default. We naturally think very negative about ourselves and want to pull ourselves down. So we again have to be conscious and self-aware of that in order to be able to change it. And then when we are aware and of changing that, that's when it becomes more natural and organic, because we almost create and we rewire and we relearn a way to sell ourselves, to be, and the way that we look at ourselves. And that's really important. And again, this goes back to how you show up in your business as a leader. So hopefully by sharing some of these ideas with you, it will, again, bring the awareness for you of where you're at in reality. And then I kind of checked in with them this week when I was, for that example, just drawing back to it, sharing things. I was saying, so, what's going on now? What do you want to change or continue? And I always frame it, what's going really well? What could be better? What do you need to improve? And then what are you going to go and do? Because again, that's that kind of example effect, change or continue model. And that's a feedback tool that you can use. But you can do it on yourself as well all the time. And again, this is really important, is when you're self-aware, and especially I've noticed it being a coach, you start to coach yourself on things, you start to analyze things differently, you reflect differently. So this is all really powerful. So the importance of personal and professional development for leaders cannot be overstated, that's for sure. And it's really about unpacking everything and delving right back to your core, looking at your foundations and thinking about, what is the path that I want to take and what do I need to do? And how am I going to make a difference is always key as well. So we often waste so much time, whether it's Netflix, looking on the internet, just social media for hours and hours and hours. And it's just relentless and it doesn't get us anywhere. And I don't want to sit here and say that never watch Netflix, but I do think there are parts of our life where we could challenge ourselves more and think, actually, I could have done an hour of work for X. I could have done something else. And again, this was an interesting conversation I was having with someone yesterday, where she was saying, she was asked kind of, what do you want to do, or where are you going to be in 10 years time? She goes, it's just sat with me for the last 4 weeks, and now she's looking at different courses, different things she could do, because she's kind of got in a little bit of limbo where she said, I kind of go work, home, work, home. And I don't actually think it's okay for us to use the excuse of where we are in the current climate, because I'm not going to keep saying that word because it really frustrates me that we allow that to be an excuse. It's a reality of where she's at, and that shouldn't hold us back. We still can be doing things differently. And this is all about, okay, that's what you can't do. What can you do? And again, a shift in the mindset, a shift in your perspective, and that kind of reset of, where am I and where do I really want to be, and closing that gap. So I'm going to share these 7 self-improvement actions that you can take. And again, if I draw back to some of the learnings I learned with Navy SEAL, especially Embrace the Suck, but I've just got this fascination with Navy SEALs. I always have done for a good few years now, because their mindset is what I call elite. It is of another level. And I almost don't know that I could go to that level of what some of them do, and how they train and how they get in the game, how they focus and just persevere and are absolutely so resilient. It just inspires me so much. But it definitely gives me the moments and the time to think about, well, how could I bring that into my world, and what would that mean to me, and how would that show up in my business and in my own personal development and me as a person, and how I feel and how I come across and help others. So it really focuses, especially if you read Embrace the Suck, on, again, like I said at the start, getting out of your comfort zone and expanding and feeling the pain and being on that path, and then looking at your values, avoiding temptation, distractions that we have, the planning part, which is absolutely key, and overall just getting really better discipline and accountability. And then kind of looking at, the fact that life's too short. we should be going out and doing these things and just saying, just give it a go. Stop fearing fear and just seeing what comes of it. So all of our environments at the moment, and often in business, are at times volatile. They're incredibly uncertain. They are very, very complex, and sometimes they can be ambiguous. And that is a challenge for us because we want to know where we're going. We want things to work. We want to feel good about ourselves and have high self-esteem and high confidence. So there is always a challenge when these things present themselves around us. And we are always in a fast-paced world and probably always will be. And this is really about challenging ourselves here. So one of the first points, and I've said it a couple of times today, is around being actively self-aware. So anybody who's into emotional intelligence, this is absolutely crucial for effective leadership in any type of environment. And emotional intelligence, EI, refers to individuals that recognise their own emotions and the emotions of others. And then they can kind of discern between the feelings and label, which is sometimes not a great word for people, but sometimes we need to use these words, that we label them appropriately for what they are. And the ability to use emotional intelligence is to guide thinking and behaviour and then manage or adjust emotions to adapt to these environments and then therefore achieve our goals. So EQ is simply self-awareness, self-management, social awareness and relationship management. Okay, so really looking at empathy. And it is great to have these skills and be really key about when you need to use them. So being self-aware is about having that reflection and a high EI. Another area to focus, so number 2 of my 7 would have to be enhancing communication style and your technique with that. So I was listening to someone give me a bit of feedback about, I did a personality test recently called Facet 5. And oh my goodness, I've done loads. I've done Myers-Briggs, MBTI. I do DISC myself. I'm accredited to run DISC with clients because I've done that through the Coaching Academy. I've done VIA Institute. I've done Gallup or Gallup. I'm not quite sure how you pronounce that, but either way. What else have I done? I've done quite a few out there that are strength finders, things like that. And they're so powerful. And in that, there's always something around communication. And the other day we were talking through my Facet 5 results, and it was actually the second pickup call. So we had a reflection on doing the Facet 5 and then the report that came off of it, which I think is like 15 pages. Then 3 months later, I've had a check-in with how have I reflected and what's been the awareness part. And that is a key moment as well, to really just reflect on self-awareness and, again, communication. So how we communicate with one another is key. And I often think that we don't communicate enough. And if you're communicating in a business, whether it's leading a team or almost the communication you have with yourself and what you want to do, you have to almost amplify that by like times it by 10 because you are never doing enough. And I know as well from when I've had to do things in the past, like disciplinaries and been in fair treatments with people or anything that's quite slightly more challenging, the root of the issues, like 9 times out of 10, are all because poor communication. Because somebody lacked to set the expectation, somebody lacked to set the standard, and somebody lacked to explain the why. And we have to do that. We have to help people and move them forward by explaining the rationale for things, by setting the standard of what's expected, and again, by following through. And this isn't just about leading a team. This is exactly the point. This is about how you would lead yourself. Do you do a weekly review? Do you do even a daily review of how your day went? Do you do a periodic monthly review? Do you do a 90-day review? All of these things are absolutely key to reflect on what went really well and what could go better, and then help you get aligned to where am I at in terms of my goals and what do I now need to focus on for the next 90 days, as an example. So this helps you as well to adapt and to know exactly what you need to adapt to get the new actions, the new processes, procedures, the new formulas, whatever it is, but it helps you to do that. So never assume that you've communicated enough, because I'm telling you now, you haven't. So my third point is to learn to grow a deeper degree of empathy. So we touched on this a moment ago, that one of the areas, the 5 areas of EQ is, or EI, sorry, emotional intelligence, which is EQ, is empathy. So empathy is really about putting yourself in somebody else's shoes. And I remember years ago, I was told a long time ago that you don't have empathy as a leader. And I took it really hard. And then I thought, okay, I've got to work on it. And then 2 years later, I was told I had too much empathy in a situation. And I thought, wow. I was like, how do I go from 2 extremes? I tell you what I do. I take a step back and I assess, where am I at now? Where have I come from? And how do I feel about the way I am in that environment that's just happened, and the way that person saw me? And I felt really happy, actually. And I said, okay, I understand you just said I've got too much empathy. Let me just talk you through past experience, which was then what I shared. And I said, so I'm really happy with where my empathy is. I'm aware of that, and you've said that, and I appreciate your feedback. Thank you. But I'm really happy that I've given enough empathy that I wanted to, and that's me. And you do have to sometimes there's that part as well with being a leader, where you say, thank you for the feedback, but this is me, or this is how I am, because we can't always change. And most of the time we can't change our natural personality default. That's who we are. It's our DNA. But you can change the learned behaviors, which is very, very different. So think about how you want to be, and, believe that empathy is really key in leadership and a quality when truly connecting with others and building meaningful relationships in terms of inspiring others, enhancing engagement, and providing feedback. And I know this sounds very team-based, but again, you just got to adapt this and think, well, if I'm the only person in my business, I still need to inspire people because they could be my potential client. I still need to enhance engagement because I need to get in conversations with my potential clients as leads. And there may be a time where I need to be very mentor-like and provide feedback and be the expert for them. So building that connection, that rapport, that trust at the start through empathy is absolutely key. Then my fourth one would be about developing skills in motivation and yourself and others. So when you are a leader, you have to be self-motivated for sure. No one's going to make you do it. No one's going to do it for you. But you also have to then help others to see that they can be that. And being a coach, you can talk them through the process and work them through, what I use is grow model. So really looking at goal, the reality, the outcomes, which I think is more about the art of the possible, and then what they are going to do, the will and way forward. So you can really look at that with people. And it's really here about belief. How much do you really believe in something? And when you really believe in something 100%, you're definitely more motivated. And then when you're more motivated, that just links into building momentum and building consistency. So loads more evolves off of that. But really check in with yourself about, have I got the ability to do what I want to do? Have I got the motivation? Because that will equal performance. Without those two, you won't perform. Fifth, and people always love this when I say, probably roll their eyes, but it's definitely to invest in mentorship and coaching. I've had a coach now for 3 years, and the difference it makes is phenomenal. I don't have it consistently. I think there was actually a period last year, August to just this January, where I haven't, because I just needed a bit of time to reflect on everything that I've been doing and just get everything in order and look again, like, where am I at and where do I want to be? And again, how do I close that gap? So work out who's the right coach and mentor for you. And this is where, like, when I do sales to see if the client's going to have the right relationship with me to work, it isn't about, I don't feel nervous doing sales, because I don't really want people's money if I'm not going to be able to help them. That's it. I've got no interest in doing that. But I do want to help them close the gap. And sometimes I need to edge that and help them in seeing that and kind of navigate them through that, create that urgency, and push them a little bit to do it, because people won't, or they'll procrastinate, they'll fear things when actually they've just got to go for it. So there are times when you need to be a bit more pushy, but generally I will be in a sales call and it's about me I look at it like I'm Simon Cowell and I audition people, because I need to make sure they're the right fit. I need to make sure I'm going to be able to help them with the what and show them the how I do that. And if I can't, I'm going to try and help them in another way by linking them up with somebody I know through my network, or just pointing out, well, you could, have you thought about this? And maybe coaching's not right for you, whatever. Just explaining that. So a time when a coaching might not be right for somebody is often when they've come to you and they're sharing things about the past quite a lot, and they're delving into roots or issues that they just can't move through. That's very much potentially for the client more about therapy and counselling. Now, I don't ever state that to them, but I will say, just let me remind you, coaching is about moving forward and where you're at now and when you want to be and closing that gap. But it is not about going into the past from a root understanding, bring it forward issue. Like it might touch into the past in terms of what strengths did you have and what could you employ that you could use now that will move you forward, because that worked really well at that time. But it isn't about uncovering the root issue of things and delving into the problems and understanding them. That's not coaching. So really understanding exactly what you want from that. Seek mentors and coaches that are prepared to really challenge you on things as well and take you to the next level. And great leaders will always embrace change, and they love the complex scenarios as well. My sixth one would be improving change leadership capability. So people don't like change. They like to be stable. And change leadership is arguably one of the most challenging burdens for anybody. So it is absolutely critical, though. That's the point. You have to continually drive better business outcomes. And a lot of that is about the obstacles, the going up a hill and you have to jump over those boulders. And do you know what? Those bloody boulders just get bigger and bigger and bigger. Yeah, well, you have to keep going with that. So it requires continuous transformation, and it requires understanding that change is inevitable. And again, this is where I'm going to draw in what I said at the start. It's about being uncomfortable and being on that change curve. And if you haven't heard of change curve, I invite you to go and Google it. There's so many different models. I think there's like an emoji one out there as well, which is quite cute. But it gives you an idea that you'll go from this kind of on that change, and you'll go through denial, acceptance, and despair. So have a look at that, because when you go through change, everybody goes through those different emotions and states and moments in time. So understanding that is what you will do. And again, that self-awareness part will often be helpful in itself, just that understanding, that awareness. And know that you are open to learning things, and be open-minded to that you're going to have to relearn things. If you didn't fear things, it probably means you haven't given stuff a go as well, because you wouldn't know what that feels like. So just get out there and try it. And finally, my last point is around managing anxiety through your wellness activities. So this stems from, I'm going to say it wrong again, probably, I think it's Gallup, actually. And they are a body that really looks at, a company that looks at strengths, personality profiling, lots of different things in terms of personal development as well. So go and have a look at them if you haven't before. They're really great. And I listened to one of webinars in a week, because it was all around, it was linked to the state of the world at the moment, of which I'm not going to say that word, but it was around change, and it was around the fact of mental health and well-being, of which I'm very passionate about. But it was also around the fact that we can't accept that in business, and this again is any business, that it's okay to just go, I'm not going to focus on wellness and well-being. Like, it's your duty to, you have a responsibility and accountability to, when you're leading people, to be aware and help them with their well-being. And this kind of hit home a bit, that often business leaders, and especially when I work with people that are very strong D's in DISC and driven and extroverts, and I want that result yesterday, those people sometimes might be very KPI driven, or they might be very results driven. They want to tick all those tasks off, smash through them. So they want tangible, those are the people that sometimes might think, that doesn't matter as much at the moment, but that's where they're wrong, because this really does. And in the webinar, they spoke about 5 areas at the moment that are really key and that society needs, which is a career, so loving what you do and being motivated to achieve your goals. Social, so they love having supportive relationships and love in your life. It's financial, so that kind of secure feeling, managing your economics life to reduce stress and increase security around finances. Physical, so having good health and enough energy to get up and literally get up sometimes and get the things done daily. And I want to do that. And community is a huge one. And I love the fact that people want to connect more and have more of a community base. This is about even things like liking where you live, feeling safe in a place where you are, having pride in your community, and any communities and things like social media. Do you network in groups where you might be accountability group, it might be a women in business group, it might be males in business, it might be mentoring group, it might be coaching, whatever. What communities and people do you surround yourself with? And this is really important, because I almost don't think that it will ever go away now, working remotely. And it's what this actually means is it's about being diverse and it's about adapting. And again, this is part of seeing turning challenge or anything that isn't going our way, adversity, and overcoming the obstacles. So I think this is absolutely key to look at and be aware of. And things like working from home, how do you help somebody if you're coaching them and they've been working from home and they're really struggling? How do you help them to keep on track with what they're doing? And, could you create a community within a program that you do potentially where they feel that they're with people and they can create accountabilities, they can buddy up and share things, how you get on with this worked, you can share wins, you can celebrate success, and create that momentum. So these things are really powerful. It's just about how you choose to see that showing up in your business and as a leader for you. But one of the best pieces of advice here is about knowing the mind-body connection as well. And that when times are uncertain and you kind of sometimes lack the energy and the focus to stay on course, this is when you're encouraged to focus on things like fitness, meditation, reflection, reading, healthy eating, lots of sleep, and of course less alcohol if you can do it. But yeah, so hopefully those 7 points to self-improvement actions that leaders must take have resonated in some way, maybe not all, but some of them. And I think in essence, the point I'd like to leave with is that, you have to take ownership for your own development and your growth. And Brian Tracy once said that personal development is a major time saver, because the better you become, the less time it takes you to achieve your goals. And I loved that this week when I read it. I thought, yeah, that's absolutely spot on, isn't it? We just don't see it in that way. And we always allow other things to get in the way, or to feel that something else is more important because it's more tangible for us at that moment in time, because we want quick wins. We want gratification there and then, instant gratification, opposed to a longer term view and a longer term gratification. So hopefully that has been of use today to you. And I really do thank you for listening to my podcast. So I highly recommend you check out some of my other episodes if you enjoyed this one. You can find me at Natalie Potts Coaching everywhere apart from my Facebook community, which is your Inner Greatness community. So check me out there. And of course, share your moments that have been really great for you today. Let me know what you would improve on, and share with a friend or whoever you think will take value from this. I'd really appreciate that. And of course, leave your feedback. I really appreciate your reviews as well. So look, whatever you do, go and smash today and have a superb week, but most importantly, have a great